Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Sessions with Kat. It is Saturday, not Wednesday, and I'm finally recording. Got some new decks. They're actually tarot decks, not oracle. Like, I'm really a tarot person. I'm surprised I haven't used them on here. So you'll probably see more tarot decks than anything. And I hope that the videos aren't longer because there's more cards, if that makes sense. But it really depends on the topic. And today's topic is cord cutting. Okay. Yeah. Everybody gets uneasy with this particular thing because it requires you to leave your comfort zone. So that's going to be our topic today. And we're going to go through the Crow Tarot. It is not in order because I am actually using this deck for my planner. So if you watch that video, then you know I use tarot to kind of map out my month. And surprisingly enough, it's been on point, even with, you know, the whole thing with my roommate and losing him and having to move and everything. The cards have been really on point. Spirit has been on point with everything. So if you haven't tried it yet, I recommend it. You don't have to, but I do recommend it. Anywho, let's get into it. So that was the box, by the way. I already took the cards out. This is the box. I know I saw, and this is a side note, I know I saw on Instagram, the creator of this deck had posted that there are some counterfeit ones out there. And you know if you have a counterfeit, but also the counterfeit one is a tuck box. This one is the real deal. So you want your box to look like this. You don't want a tuck box. So I figured I'd mention that because the creator mentioned that. And here's the backs. I kind of like the simplicity of it, meaning like I can read reversals with this. And I love the cardstock. If you're not a tarot card collector or avid reader, that won't make sense to you, but the cardstock does matter when you're shuffling a deck, when you're flipping cards, and how long your deck is gonna last. That matters a lot. If it's flimsy, you might want to be careful how often you use it and how you shuffle it. So I do like them. So, oh, look at that. The wheel being the first fucking card. Let's get into it. So, cord cutting, etheric cords. Number one, I guess the first part of this is, should you cut the cord? So when we think of disconnecting from people, places, situation, we have to first determine if the cord actually needs to be cut. And when we say cut, we actually mean cut, burned, and the energy done away with, if that makes sense. You have to first determine if you're dealing with a moment in time or if you're dealing with something that just keeps repeating itself with this person. Is this a lesson? You have to first determine if that cord should be there or not. 9 times out of 10, the cord should be cut and burned, okay? But it's a rare occasion that you might just be learning a mini lesson within like a friendship or within like a relationship with your family members or a job or something like that. You just have to determine if that cord truly needs to be cut and burned, and you know, because it's disrupting your life, the quality of your life, the quality of your patience, of your loving spirit. It disrupts you, you know. Because it won't feel right. It won't feel, right's not the right word. It won't feel, it'll try to make you feel unwell. If that's the best way I can describe it. And by that I mean, anxiety. You might experience depression. You might experience just deep sadness, not necessarily depression, just sadness. You might feel as if you're grieving something, like spirit's putting it on you to let go. They might give you this sense of something needs to die so that you can be reborn. A lot of times that's what's happening with cutting cords, okay? From my own personal experience, when it's time for me to cut a cord, I usually get to the point where I don't want, like, let's just say it's a particular person. I usually get to this point where, I don't want this person anywhere around me. Their vibration is so off that I have to constantly smudge myself anytime they contact me or whatever. Or like when I left my corporate job, I knew it was time to cut the cord when my heart got worse. So my body was taking a hit. So you just know when you're dealing with someone or something or some situation, just to kind of group it all together, when it's time to, like, if you need to cut that cord, your body will tell you, your mind will tell you, spirit will tell you. And it's usually mind first, because you'll just keep thinking about like all the things that irritate you, all the things that just pisses you off. And then if you're not listening to your mind, both your body and spirit will tell you. And it will feel like you got hit with a 2x4, or that, you know, spirit just woke up and chose violence. It will feel like that, okay? And this is a part of shadow work. So it all kind of ties together. This is a part of shadow work. This is how you know you're coming up on a lesson. You're going through that death of the old and rebirthing into something more healthy and better for you and more expansive. So, oh, look, and the Fool. So like you want to get to that point to understand, like, does this cord need to be cut? Or is this just a lesson in here and I can keep the cord and maybe just work on setting a boundary with that person? So that's step 1. Step 2 is split. If you need to cut the cord, you have to now determine how you're going to cut that cord. Not when, because the cord's going to get cut regardless. It's the how that will determine how fast you move in cutting that cord, okay? Some people go and get candle work, right? Now, that is something I do offer, but I recommend you doing it yourself. Some people do that. Some people, you know, visualize, sense, and become that pair of scissors and snip, snip, and burn it up, right? All that fire sitting around there, makes sense. Some people do that. Some people will write a letter and burn it, like to get everything out, like no matter how many pages it is, they'll burn it and then let the ashes go with the wind. It really depends on what spirit is telling you what needs to happen. Sometimes, if, like, you know, if you're required to cut a cord, it may not necessarily mean that you have to move that person out of your life. It just means that you have to stop exchanging energy with that person on that level. I hope that made sense. Because you like, you know, like sometimes we want to just like cut off family members, right? Like we'll use that. And you just want to stop talking to them forever. Now, some you might be able to do that, but you can't exactly just do that with everybody, right? You have to be able to cut that cord that's getting energy from that party or that situation, so that you're not like getting hit with the bullshit. That's like the best way I can explain that. You're either going to allow that cord to continue to exist, knowing that you should cut it, and then that energy flows back and forth. But really, it's them taking your energy and then giving you their energy, but you're never getting quality energy back. So a lot of times you'll feel used. You'll feel like when you're around that person or in that situation, you'll just feel drained. It's like dealing with energy vampires. It's similar to that. So you want to, you know, determine how you need to cut that cord with that person. So I always recommend you to do it yourself. And this is where I recommend, you know, going into a meditation, visualizing, sensing, and becoming that decorative pair of scissors, and you snipping that cord and then letting it burn itself away. I recommend writing it out, right? And burning it. I recommend lighting a candle for yourself, not necessarily having someone else light it. Now, that should not deter you from doing whatever you feel called to do. Sometimes you might not feel strong enough to do it yourself, so it requires outside work. When I say you have to determine how to do this, you have to first determine, are you strong enough to cut it? Right? Are you strong enough to cut it? If not, that's when you seek outside help. So you can cut cords through candle work. You can cut cords through energy healing. You can cut cords any kind of way. So long as the cord is fucking cut and burned and you've processed the lesson and are now implementing proper boundaries and healthy boundaries moving forward, okay? That's key. That's key. Now, say you don't need to cut the cord. You just need to put a healthier boundary in place. That's where you actually need to speak up, right? You need to speak up and say, hey, that didn't really feel too good with me. You know, however you want to say it. I know how I say it, but it's got to be how you say it. For me, it's, that energy don't feel too good. I'm going to need you to stay over there, cross that line again, and it's a wrap. That's just how my brain works when it comes to certain things. Like when I need to keep the cord, but I need to put in a boundary, right? You have to speak up. It's okay to speak up. It's okay to say, hey, lines were crossed, right? And if that person is unwilling to hear you, then you can determine if that cord should be cut or if you should just limit how often you're around the person, whatever. But we're really focusing on cutting the actual cord, right? Because in cutting cords, a lot of times Spirit is telling you, hey, in order for us to give you this little piece that you need to release this thing over here. This is why change is necessary, right? And I like this. Two of Pentacles here, this infinity symbol. That's how change works, right? That's how change moves us. That's how cutting cords moves us. It's infinite. You're always going to encounter someone who you have to determine, hey, I should create a cord with this person, like a connection, or this is a one-time thing. Have a nice day, and you keep it moving. You have to learn discernment, and that's the next step. Learning discernment after you're cutting cords. This is your intuition kicking in. This is your inner wisdom coming out. This is where your gifts prosper the most. It's learning, and the Queen of Cups is here. This is where you're learning and putting in that boundary so you don't repeat that lesson, okay? This is what cord cutting is about. It's not just as simple as, oh, I just want to detach from this person and I want to forget them. Nope, because you're never going to forget that experience, okay? You're never going to forget the experience. It doesn't matter if it's a situation, a person, or whatever. You're never going to forget that experience unless you have like Alzheimer's or dementia or something like that. And I pray none of you do. But you're never going to forget that experience. What you want to do is learn from it so that moving forward, you don't attract that bullshit back. That's basically the essence of cord cutting and what it entails, okay? So for myself, and I'll just use me as an example because I'm not going to use my clients. And my favorite card, the Tower card. I love the Tower card. Tower, Death, and the Devil are my favorite cards in the tarot deck. Okay. My Tower moment happened when my best friend died. Okay. Because you don't realize what lessons were actually presented in front of you until the blinders come off. Okay. And so once he passed, I realized very quickly, very fucking quickly, there are certain people and situations I don't want to have to deal with ever again in my fucking life. Okay. And I had to determine in that moment where to cut cords, where to allow the cord to build itself, where to completely block that person, right? Black candle and all. And where to, like, where in me, okay? Because it's not just the outward side. You do have to, and I like that Temperance is here, you do have to look at the inward and the outward. So the outward is what usually presents itself when we need to cut a cord. We also have to look at the inward part. This is also part of cord cutting. I had to look at me and go, what in me is fully triggered by this, right? And do I want this, right? Do I want to experience this? Is this something that is giving me life, or is it taking life, right? Is it taking life from me? So I determined there's a handful of people I'm gonna fucking cut a cord with, right? Does it mean I need to fully remove that person from my life? Some of them, yes. Some of them, no, right? You'll know. But how I plan to do that, right? It depends on the person and the situation and how severe it is. Some people already cut themselves off, plain and simple, right? The other ones who might need to stay in my life, I just don't need to have that type of cord with them. I just need to cut that cord. They can stay where they are, right? Doesn't mean I think of them as less of a person. It's just that I can't get with their energy anymore, so I can keep them at a distance, right? The how of it, for some, I just cut the damn cord and burn it. For others, I wrote the letter or whatever, and for some, I just lit a candle and I just allowed spirit to do it, right? It's your personal choice, right? That is really what's key when it comes to cutting cords and letting go. Now, since doing that, I have found that my patience is getting better because it was wearing thin. Especially, you know, I mean, like, understand, like, my situation is a bit different right now because I am dealing with grief. So my patience level is not exactly where it normally would be. But my patience was running thin, okay? And Spirit was like, yo, we got to step in. And I'm like, yo, you better, because I'm just start setting shit on fire, right? And with that, once things cleared, once things got, you know, you let go of things and you bring some balance back in on a mental level, your patience comes back. Your groundedness comes back. The anxiety eases. Your body relaxes a little bit more. You just find that you now have things you may have not noticed that you were lacking. I hope that made sense. Because a lot of times, you know, we get overwhelmed and we just kind of forget ourselves. And we're, you know, you're dealing with things like, say you're dealing with other life matters and then you're dealt with another situation. Sometimes you lose track of what the fuck is going on with you. So you just, you know, let Spirit step in. Sometimes Spirit needs to step in and cut the cord for you, right? Now, to help you with the how, and I'm glad I'm using the tarot deck. This is actually a good thing. You can use the swords in your tarot deck. So whatever is your air element, to help you understand the mental conflict you're dealing with when it comes to this cord, okay? You would use your cups to help you understand your emotional and intuitive battle that you're having with this particular, that particular situation, right? You would use the pentacles or the earth element to help you see, you know, what could happen if you keep things the way they are versus if you went ahead and cut the cord, right? You know, the earth element is the physical aspect, so you can use it for that. And then you would use the wands or the fire. Some decks are called rods. Whatever your fire element is, you would use that to show you how to cut the cord and what kind of resources you might actually need, like if you need an added support or something like that. That's what you would use that for, okay? Your major cards is where spirit comes in. So that's how you would kind of tackle that there. That can help you determine how to cut the cord. Now, what happens after you cut the cords? Sometimes it's instant. Sometimes it's fucking instant and it's great, okay? Sometimes it's instant and it feels like shit, okay? You might instantly regret cutting the cord because spirit moves so quick that you were thinking, oh, okay, this is gonna be a process. And spirit moves like, oh, yay, we get to cut the cord, and then cut, snip, burn. And all of a sudden you have regrets, okay? You end up fighting spirit, okay? Don't fight spirit. If spirit cut the cord that damn quick, that means they were waiting for you to give the go-ahead, okay? Because a lot of times, you know, spirit, universe, however you want to call it, won't just step in if you keep wanting to keep dealing with that situation. And a lot of times, and this is the part you have to be mindful of after you cut a cord, to not rebuild it, okay? Now, I've cut cords for people, many people, and 9 times out of 10, there's no rebuild after that. But there are some who want to rebuild a connection with the person or whatever. You have to understand that that is spirit driven at that point. And if spirit is saying no, and they won't, like nothing's coming of it, you probably should just accept that. Because 9 times out of 10, you don't need that kind of juju in your life, right? You want to be able to walk forward and not keep dealing with past situations or repeat situations. I mean, asking spirit to rebuild a cord after you cut it because you have regrets is like saying, I want to keep learning this lesson over and over and over and over and over again. I want to get these blows to my spirit over and over and over and over and over again. No, no. So don't come to me saying, hey, can you cut this cord? And then turn around and be like, oh, put the cord back. I can't, because a lot of that's spirit driven, right? And if spirit says, you know, this is a cord that can be rebuilt, I'll let you know that. And a lot of times spirit will let you know that. So in the aftermath of cutting a cord, spirit will let you know, like, yeah, you can keep this person around, or, you know, cut them all the way off. You'll know. You'll know, because it'll be based on what you feel afterwards and how you're thinking afterwards. You're like, you know what? I feel A1. We don't need that kind of thing in our life, and you just keep it at bay, right? And you walk protected. For some, it's a matter of, you know what? We need to rebuild the situation. And that's the intention you put into the cord cutting, is that the cord be cut, burned, and rebuilt in a healthy manner, so long as it's for our highest good. You have to put that intention in there. Otherwise, spirit is just going to cut and leave you hanging. That's just the facts of it, right? So that comes with the aftermath. Now, the good part about it is that sometimes it's instant and you just, I don't know, you just feel so damn good, and you rebuild that love, like that love that you have been spilling out for a situation or for someone, you can give it back to yourself. So you do start practicing more self-awareness, self-care, self-love, mindfulness, things of that nature. So there's a lot of perks to cutting a cord. Now, sometimes you do go through a period of grieving afterwards, because it might have depended on the situation, the person, the thing, you might deal with grief or withdrawals or something like that. Because, I mean, when you have a cord between you and someone, it can feel kind of like you're on drugs, right? Or someone, something, someplace, whatever. Like for me, for example, I had a food addiction. When I broke from that food addiction, that was a period of grief, okay? And I went through 3 days of hell, because it usually takes about 3 days to get through the worst of the withdrawals. And then you can move forward pretty easily. That depends on the person, okay? Everybody's different, okay? So you might experience that death, but then you start to realize, like, wait a minute, I feel better. My body feels better. My heart feels better. My mind feels better. That's the rebirthing part. It's bringing you back to life. And it's bringing you back to wholeness, to being fully human, to being fully aware of you and your abilities and things of that nature. Now, sometimes when you after you cut a cord, especially a cord that needs to be cut, it might wake up your gifts. It might wake up your hearing. It might wake up your sensory. It might wake up your sight. Okay, you don't know. It really depends on what spirit wants you to experience, right? Now, for those of you who already explore all of your gifts, it will heighten, like your gifts will be heightened. But if you're opening to your gifts, spirit might do it slowly, one at a time. And sometimes, you know, spirit might not, you know, open up all your gifts because you might not be ready for the next set yet. Because spirit knows if you're going to abuse the gift or not, right? And don't take that in a bad way. It's just like they know if you're going to be using it for your highest good or if it's going to set you back. So sometimes they won't give you everyone has the gift, but they won't give you access until they know that you're not going to abuse it, like quote unquote, abuse it for yourself. It's more about, they're ready for this, or nah, they're not ready for this one, but we'll give them this one. It's kind of like that. So once you're cutting cords, you get access to more tools in your toolbox, right? So there's perks, lots of perks, okay? And understand, it doesn't, like, when you're cutting cords with someone, and I'm going to end the video on this, because we're almost to the bottom of this. When you're cutting cords with someone, it doesn't make them a bad person. Even a job, even a thing, it doesn't make that thing or that job or that person bad. What it means is that connection between the two of you was bad. Okay? People do stupid things. People are not the stupid thing that they did. I hope that made sense. It made sense the way Spirit just said it. You can't, how can I say this? Don't hold that person's bullshit over their head. Okay? Regardless if they learn their lesson or not. Right? It's up to you to learn your lesson in all of this. And you can't hold what they did over their head if you've cut the cord. Because you're no longer attached to it. You'll remember, and it'll keep you set in your boundaries so that you don't cross that line with anybody else or that person if you ever come across them again, or that situation or that type of job. But you don't want to like hold that thing over their head, right? Because what they did was bad, but them themselves are not bad. Now, don't get it twisted. There are some people you're like, did you come from the depths of hell? But a lot of times it's just, you know, we become a certain way over time. It's a learned behavior. It's learned habits. That still doesn't make the person bad because the soul is inherently good. The human part of us that likes power and greed and all those things will do bad things that make us appear as a bad person. And a lot of times we get wrapped up in that. So to be mindful of that for yourself, you know, don't hold the thing over the person's head. Learn your lesson from that thing and cut that cord so that you can move forward. Otherwise, if you're still holding that very thing, you're only burning yourself. You're not burning that person. You're hurting yourself. You want to, if you keep holding it, let me finish out that statement. If you keep holding it, you're hurting yourself, but also you're kind of holding up trash and you're like, here, you know, trash pandas, I'm over here. And then you keep attracting like people because you're still harboring that energy that you need to burn, right? You don't need to harbor trash, if that makes sense. Because when you're ready to cut a cord, it's now considered trash. And so you want to stop feeding your body trash. So why would you continue holding it, right? And why would you continue holding judgment over someone that ain't your job? You've already determined that the cord needs to be cut and that you can learn your lesson and move on. Does it mean that it lessens the hurt? No, but you have to learn to accept that what they did hurt you, but now you have a proper boundary in place so that it won't happen again with that person or anyone else, right? So you have to determine that. You really have to determine that for yourself. So that being said, if y'all have any questions about cord cutting, you know, drop them in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And all that jazz, whatever those other YouTubers say. I also hope that you guys have a wonderful weekend wherever you are. Stay hydrated, eat, be merry, be healthy, and that you know, live your best life because you fucking deserve to. Okay, so this is my last YouTube video here in this space. The next video will probably be either right as I'm getting ready to leave Michigan or when I arrive at my destination. So yeah, say goodbye to this table. Or at least this cloth anyway. The table's coming with me, but I'm gonna be changing up a lot of things and improving on a lot of things. So that being said, I'll see you guys next week. Bye.